And it's just basketball. At the end of the day, it's just basketball.
Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe on the way in the door, my people. I hope you all are having a truly fantastic day today. You see the title of the video. So, if you check out the top 20 players who lead in player efficiency rating, 9 of them are from this current generation of NBA players, what I would call the Deer era, the Duck era, the era of the 4 and 6 kingdom. Nikola Jokic, I believe in the last year or two, overtook Michael Jordan as number 1, and then you have LeBron James at 3, Anthony Davis at 4. Looks like you have Kevin Durant at 10. Skipped over Giannis Antetokounmpo, he's at 9. Who else we have on there? Chris Paul at number 16, James Harden at number 17, Karl Anthony Towns at number 19, and Steph Curry at number 20. So 9 of the top 20 players who lead in PER, player efficiency rating, comes from what I would call the 4 and 6 kingdom era, the LeBron James era. Now, the rest of them are from the previous eras. And I was also say some of the greatest winners of the previous eras are in that top 20. Michael Jordan being one of them, Shaquille O'Neal being one of them, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Tim Duncan is in the top 20. Magic Johnson is in the top 20. And so we all know Michael Jordan for the longest led in PER. And I just think it's very interesting that some of the greatest winners in history are in the top 20, even though in their era of basketball, analytics was not focused on like it is today. Specifically when we're talking about Michael Jordan. It is ironic that someone like Michael Jordan, who could care less about analytics, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I read a quote or saw an interview where Michael Jordan said the only stats he ever cared about was turnovers and free throws. The only stats he ever cared about was turnover and free throws, because those were 2 things he thought that could really hurt your team, especially when you're talking about the momentum, in which I think a lot of basketball, sports period, is about momentum. So, if you're missing free opportunities for points, if you're turning the ball over, to me, those kind of things can really suck the air out of a team and can shift the momentum. So those are the 2 stats that Michael Jordan really cared about, is free throws and turnovers. Ironically, the Deer hasn't saw fit enough to improve his free throw percentage over the years, even though it seems like he's been working hard at the 3-point line. But yeah, I think it's ironic that Michael Jordan finds himself at the top of a lot of analytical stats, even though, again, Michael Jordan wasn't focused on these things at all. And so it kind of made me think, like, should analytics even be a thing? And you see the title of the video. I say analytics are for losers. And let me explain why. Because analytics can't take into account the difference in human personality, the difference in human effort, the difference in human will, and just the difference in the mentality of a person, which I think makes all the difference. So let's talk about this. Let's say, to me, you can look at analytics almost like a recipe, because this is how they use these modern modern day analytics, it's almost like they're trying to get a recipe for success, a recipe for winning, and it controls the way the game is played. This is why so many 3-point shots are going up. It controls the type of players that they draft. It controls the type of rosters that they put together, because sad analytics say, oh, you need this amount of shooters and this is how you need to play the game, and so on and so on. But I think of it this way. If you think of analytics as a recipe, if someone gives you the recipe to bake a cake, to bake the perfect cake, whatever goes in the recipe is very specific, 2 eggs, flour, blah, I don't know what all goes into a cake. But 2 eggs, flour, this specific amount of this specific amount of that. And if you put these ingredients together with the specific amounts of ingredients that they have said to include, and put the oven on the correct temperature, you should have the perfect cake. Well, what the recipe can never account for is the person who's actually baking the cake. This is what the recipe can never account for. So while the recipe can tell you that these are the things that has led to a successful cake, it can't guarantee that the person baking the cake is going to make it successful. If you want to talk about music, again, I grew up in the 90s. To me, Andre 3000 is one of the greatest lyricists to ever do it, in my personal opinion. But to me, if you listen to some of the lyrics that Andre 3000 says, I'm like, only he could get away with that. If someone else tried to do it, it wouldn't come off right. It wouldn't have the same vibe, and they probably wouldn't be as successful. But we can say this about probably all of your favorite rappers. Tupac. To me, what made him the most influential rapper to me in the history of rap is how he delivered, and that is why people related to him, is that passion that he had behind what he said. His rhymes weren't particularly complicated. And again, if someone else was saying the same thing Tupac said, it probably wouldn't have been as successful, because they're not Tupac. They can't deliver it like Tupac. Biggie Smalls, someone who I consider a very clever lyricist. Like, I love Biggie. But again, if someone else is saying Biggie Smalls lyrics, they're probably not going to be as successful as Biggie Smalls, because they can never deliver it like Biggie Smalls. That is what's most important, is how it's delivered. And so when I think about analytics, when they tell you, this is the way the game needs to be played, to me, it's like, it all depends on who's doing it. Michael Jordan, in 5 out of his 6 championships for the Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan led the league in usage rate. And I'm pretty sure, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, and I need to go back and double check this, but I'm pretty sure Michael Jordan is the only player to have led the league in usage rate and won a championship. Kobe Bryant couldn't do it. LeBron James certainly could not do it. But if you were a person who were about trying to figure out what made Michael Jordan successful, and you analyze all these things, you say, oh, well, he led the league in usage rate, he led the league in scoring, he was first team all defense, and all this, and you try to say, okay, well, this must be the formula for winning. This must be the formula for going 6-0. But the problem is if you're not Michael Jordan, you can't pull that off. The person executing, that's what matters most. It's not the numbers. And this is why we don't talk about stats again. It's not the numbers. It's the person executing. Because what really controls the game is the will. Once you make it to the NBA, you're dealing with the best basketball players in the world. So to me, once you get to that point, the will becomes maybe more important than the skill, because you're going to have a lot of skilled players. Again, I just went and was watching the Vince Carter documentary the other day, and I really forgot how incredible Vince Carter was. Like, you know, and I guess that kind of goes along with, you know, if you didn't win a championship, you can be easily forgotten. You know, if you didn't win a championship, people are probably going to remember the worst parts of your career. But I forgot how amazing Vince Carter was. But to me, for all accounts, Vince Carter had everything that it took to be as great as Michael Jordan, maybe even better. But he did not have the mentality. For all of the skills and athleticism that Vince Carter had, again, I think Vince Carter was more explosive at dunking. But as I went back and watched some of these Vince Carter highlights, he couldn't jump higher than Michael Jordan. You know, I've heard some people say that. No, it's clearly Vince wasn't getting up as high as Michael Jordan. Vince was just an explosive leaper. You know, I think that's what made him like that. Again, Michael Jordan was just quick at everything. If you look at Michael Jordan, he got into the air so quickly that defenders really didn't have a chance. He did everything so quickly that defenders didn't have a chance. So, but at any rate, to me, Vince Carter, you know, in totality, he had what it takes to, from a skill-wise and athleticism-wise, to be the next Michael Jordan. He just didn't have the mentality. And this is what the numbers can never, ever account for. And so, because these analytics, to me, are an attempt at figuring out a formula to be successful, the way I look at it is they are an attempt at a shortcut. And this is why I say analytics are for losers. They're trying to find a formula that dictates some amount of success, when at the end of the day, what's going to dictate success is the same thing that has dictated success throughout human history, and that is, how much are you willing to put into it? And obviously, there's exceptions to every rule. Some people get lucky. Some people take shortcuts like LeBron James. But in general, what has dictated success throughout human history is the effort that you are willing to put into it. And that is why, despite them have been so hyper-focused on analytics for at least the last decade, maybe a little more, all of the greatest winners from the past still rank high in the analytics, because at the end of the day, it's really about the effort. Like, the effort is going to yield the results. But to me, when you become focused on the analytics, what actually happens, when you become focused on the stats, what actually happens is you actually get better at the stats. But that doesn't necessarily translate to winning. Because you become more conscious of the stats. And to me, whenever you're doing anything that could potentially take your mind away from the task at hand is a distraction. And this is why we're seeing the most inconsistent superstars we've ever seen. This is what's happening, is that these players are so stat conscious. You know, these players are thinking about, oh man, I'm probably getting ready to come out the game, man. I got to make sure I get this one more rebound to get my triple-double. Draymond Green, or whatever the story was. I think I saw it on, shout out to Angry Hoops. I saw him do a video, or maybe it was a reaction video to a Draymond Green video. But, you know, the video talked about how Draymond, I forgot, either demanded to be put back in the game so he could finish a stat line, or refused to come out the game so he could finish. But this is where these players' mind is at. Their mind is on the stats, so they are getting the stats. Like, if that's where your focus is, you will get better at the stats. But getting better at the stats doesn't translate to winning. What translates to winning is the work. And the work that you put in will get you the stats. Like, if you put in the work, it's almost guaranteed that you will have the stats to back it up. But the opposite isn't true. And what I mean, if you put in the work to be the best player that you are, to win, the stats will back that up. But if it's the opposite, where you're focused on the stats, that isn't going to translate to you actually being the best player that you can be. That's not going to translate to winning. And, again, let me, with the exception of Stephen Curry, who has 4 championships. And again, I hate to say it because I like Steph Curry, but 2 of those championships, especially after finding out that he was complicit in recruiting Kevin Durant, I have to think less of Stephen Curry, just like I think less of D Wade once I find out he was conspiring with LeBron James for this whole thing. Players who conspire together to make this happen, I can't consider you the same kind of competitor as players of the past. But with the exception of Stephen Curry in this top 20 list of PER, no one else really has more than 2 championships. Kevin Durant's on the list. James Harden, we all know James Harden is not likely to see a championship. Chris Paul, Karl Anthony Towns, who else? Of course, the Deer is on the list, but we know how he got his championships, and Anthony Davis. But yeah, to me, again, when you become focused on analytics, when you become focused on the stats, yes, you will get better at those things, but those things don't translate to winning. Again, Michael Jordan scoring 30 points isn't the same thing as LeBron James scoring 30 points. LeBron James scoring 30 points isn't the same thing as Kobe Bryant scoring 30 points, because at the end of the day, it's really about the effort. It's really about players being able to impose their will on the game. It's really about how and when you score. It's really about mentality a whole lot more than you ridiculous LeBron James fans boys want to admit, because if you don't have the mentality to crush and destroy your opponent, how can you impose your will on someone like that? This is why Michael Jordan was so effective, because he needed to dominate. He needed to keep his foot on your neck. He had to do that. He didn't want you to think you had a chance to win. So yeah, we gonna hold up here. But like I said, to me, analytics are for losers, and to me, analytics are really just looking for a shortcut. Like it's looking for this formula for players. And last but not least, and I'm gonna say this, to me, analytics create shortcut mentalities too. Analytics create shortcut mentalities because it has players thinking about these numbers in a way that these numbers is what's going to lead to success, versus just the effort and the all-around game, like the effort on both offense and defense. It has these players thinking in a shortcut mindset, like, oh, well, this is what the numbers say, so this is how, I should be taking this many threes, and I should be doing this, and this is what the numbers say will lead to success. To me, when you're thinking like that, that is a shortcut mindset. But again, it's not about that. It's about, again, the thing that has proven throughout human history that will yield results is simply outworking the competition. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Are any of you guys fans of analytics? How helpful do you think they really are in the game of basketball? Do you think they belong in the game of basketball? Because I think most of us know it was something that kind of started in baseball, and at some point, I think it had some success in baseball, but because of that, they decided that they should try it in basketball. But I think we're talking about 2 different sports, and just because one thing works in one sport doesn't mean it's going to translate to another sport. I think in basketball, it has ruined the game. It has players thinking in a shortcut mentality, and it has taken the feeling and the emotion and the grit out of the game. But anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. You all have a truly fantastic day, and I'll see you next time. All right.